welcome to B-GHUD channel. Today we have two British citizens here. On my right it is Mrs. Gerry, and on my left it is Mrs. Heather. So I'm just asking a few questions so that my students can understand the way they describe things and their stress, diction and intonation on the words and also on the way, on the pace of their speaking, and more than that, the correct pronunciation of words. That is very important for IELTS, OET, PT, TOEFL and CELPIP. When these two British nationals speak, please pay focus on the plosive sounds, K, T, B and P especially, and all these things are pronounced in a peculiar way. They are giving more air to that, number one. Number two, and we generally in India we say every, that's wrong, every, and often, both are okay, and schedule, director, all these are okay. And then we come to the other aspect. The pace of talking is of great importance in all these international exams, because most of us or our students are generally very fast to impress the examiner. That is bad, because that is actually the manifestation of your own inferiority complex, because you think that the speed of talking is fluency. That is not. That is a wrong notion. Pace of talking is very important. Focus on the words which you want to stress. That is very, very important. And Gerry said a word called genre, G-E-N-R-E. These are all, I think, French words, and they have different pronunciation. And Miss Heather also said potatoes, and so many other words. You rewind and listen to that. That is very important. Pronunciation, just for pronunciation, in all these international exams, you are going to get 25% marks. So that is of great importance. Now, to get some idea and also to enable you to reflect differently and to think objectively, I would like to draw your attention on 2-3 simple topics. And let's see how the cultural difference, how the perceptual difference, and how they think differently. Then you have to arrive at your own conclusions. Now my first question to Heather, from my book IELTS and TOEFL Made Easy, in the speaking section, there is a question. Can you describe a traditional wedding ceremony you have attended?
I have attended many wedding ceremonies in England, relatives and friends. Generally, in England, I have attended Anglican wedding ceremonies. It is tradition for the bride and groom to invite many guests, and only those invited come to the wedding. Some will be invited to a reception later on, and some a party in the evening. The wedding ceremony begins when the bridegroom came first, and then the bride comes later. It is a tradition that the bride can be late. So the bridegroom and his best man, he has a best man, will stand at the front of the church and then wait, sometimes with apprehension, for the bride to enter the church. As the bride and her bridesmaids and maybe page boys arrive, then the traditional tune is "Here Comes the Bride." This is played as the bride walks down the aisle on the arm of her father. Her father gives her away to the bridegroom at the front of the church. Within the church, the groom's family and friends sit on one side of the church and the bride's on the other. And relatives usually sit at the very front of the church. The bride and groom then stand with their back to the congregation and speak to the priest, and the priest speaks to the bride and groom. They go through a set piece where the bride and groom in turn repeat what the priest is saying, which is something like, "I take you, whatever your name is, to be my lawful wedded wife or my lawful wedded husband." Yeah, so then they go through the vows, and once the vows are over, it is tradition then for the bride to turn to the groom. He lifts the veil off of the bride's face, and the priest says, "You may now kiss the bride." And in front of all the congregation, the bride and the groom have a kiss, and everybody claps and cheers. Once this is over, the bride and groom then, hand in hand, walk back through the church to the outside of the church, and this is where photographs are taken. Photographs of just the bride and groom, photographs of the bride, the groom, bridesmaids and page boys, and then photographs of each different family, different groups of friends, but only outside the church are photographs taken. I have attended weddings in India, and there are many photographers in the church. They tend to get in the way when you want to see what is going on, and then once they are outside again, if we want to take photographs, there is usually a photographer, but they are in the way. It is very formalised in England, and people take turns. Once the photographs are taken, it's usually then that people will get into cars or whatever and go to a reception. And it could be a sit-down meal, it could be a buffet, but they are invited family and friends. Once the wedding is over, there may be an evening reception, and that's where many other friends are invited. Before the bride leaves to go on her honeymoon with her husband, she will stand outside. The congregation will be behind her, and she will take her bouquet and she will throw the bouquet over her shoulder, and it is tradition that whoever catches the bouquet, they will be the next to be married. This doesn't always happen, but this is just a tradition. And often the car that they would travel away in has been tied with tin cans or things that make a noise. The best man or the chief bridesmaid will have decorated the car before the bride and groom come out, and they have a just married sign across the window, and this is to proclaim to everybody outside that this couple has just been married.
My request to my students, especially IELTS and TOEFL, that her pace of talking is very good, and also she was describing using topic-related vocabulary. That's of great importance. Now I have a question to Mrs. Gerry. Now that is, what's your favorite kind of music?
Well, my favourite kind of music is mostly melodic, because I am older. A lot of the new bands now that, say, my daughters know and my granddaughters, I don't even recognise them, and I don't understand very often what's being said on the record. I don't appreciate the hip-hop music. I hate rapping. I like to hear words and hear them clearly with beautiful music. I like listening to some classical music. I don't always know who's written it, but it's often quite calming to listen to classical music very often. I like older singers, who sing about nice things, not the horrible things that they seem to sing about nowadays. I can't think of any artists at the moment that you would know, although there is in B-GHUD, the first record that's played at 10 o'clock is Jim Reeves. Jim Reeves has a lovely voice, not with us anymore, but I used to like Jim Reeves' kind of music. He didn't only sing church music, he also sang general songs as well. But he has got a good voice, and you can hear every word he sings. So that's my sort of favourite music. I was also brought up in the 60s when the big band that was around then that you may have heard of was the Beatles. I was a great fan of the Beatles, John Lennon especially being my favourite. He wrote good words to good songs. again, a generation thing. My father hated my music because he said, like I'm saying about the youngsters now, you can't hear what they're saying, and that's not music. But I enjoyed it. So many of the Beatles songs, all different genres, I enjoy and I still enjoy. Maybe because it's easy for me to listen to, but often I've listened to it so often I know every word. I like some what they call rock bands, but it depends how lively and how loud they are. So a variety, I would say. I listen to music in the car, and I have CDs to play, and that might be just music that I've heard on the radio. My radio is on the music channel always from when I wake up until I turn it off late afternoon. But there are two channels. There is a Radio 1, that's for the youngsters. BBC Radio 2 is more of my age, more old music and quieter popular songs. So I have quite a variety of favourite music. I can't think of one instance. A pretty eclectic mix, I would say.
Now, Ms. Heather, I would like to ask you a question. Describe a traditional meal in your country.
A traditional meal in England.
Yeah.
When you ask me about a traditional meal in my country, automatically, I suppose, as it's a traditional meal, would be a Christmas dinner. And in our country, a Christmas dinner, when I was a child, it was chicken, and now turkey seems to be the main thing. Turkey used to be more special than chicken because it wasn't available as chickens were. So a roast dinner would be made. You would have the bird of your choice. You would have it roasted with roast potatoes, and you would have several different vegetables: carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, courgettes, and good old sprouts. Now, sprouts in England are controversial. I happen to love sprouts, and my children, luckily, grew up loving sprouts. In England, sprouts are very small cabbages, and they are grown on a stalk, and this has many sprouts attached to it. I find them delicious, but because many people don't, they start to make different recipes with the sprouts. So you can have sprouts with bacon and chestnuts mixed into it to make it more palatable for some. I like plain sprouts. So we have a multitude. Swede. Swede is in our country a very solid vegetable that you peel and chop and cook in water and mash like a mashed potato. And this is all served with a gravy. But if it is a turkey, they will often have cranberry sauce. I think turkey and cranberry sauce may have come from America, but it is now traditional in England. Although people are getting a bit tired of turkey, some people go back to chicken. They will also have beef. They could have duck, and they also do something which is a triple bird. So the chefs show you how you can have maybe a duck, a chicken and another bird, and they put them one inside the other and then bake them that way. I have never done this and I've never tasted it, but apparently it is quite delicious. So that would be your roast dinner at Christmas. Traditionally, it would be followed by a Christmas pudding, very much like your plum cake. It is a steamed pudding. These days you can do it in the microwave. This pudding is then heated, put on a plate, and then you, with a spoon, carefully pour alcohol over the pudding, and it gets set alight. So this becomes a bit of a ceremony, and you bring the pudding to the table in flames. It's just burning off the alcohol. In years gone by, in the Christmas pudding, when they are stirring it and making it, there would be silver charms. And when you have your slice of pudding, usually served with fresh cream, if you're lucky enough, you might get a silver charm, or a silver sixpence it used to be. As a child, my grandparents would come every Christmas, and my wonderful grandfather would distract you, and then he would have a sixpence in his pocket and quickly put it in my pudding, and then each child thought, wow, we are lucky, we have all got a sixpence. The traditional Christmas dinner also would be set out formally, and every side, every bite, every plate, you would have a Christmas cracker. And the Christmas cracker is a paper cracker, and you give it to your partner and they pull. There is a snap within the cracker, and once the cracker is open, if you have the main part of the cracker, then you get a toy, maybe a sticker, and usually a riddle and a Christmas paper hat. And the riddles are very corny jokes. They would, and obviously I cannot think of a single one at the moment, but it is all a very social occasion.
Yes, ma'am. Now my question to you is that, can you describe your favorite TV program?
Hello, so you ask what's my favourite TV programme. My favourite TV programme or programmes are quiz shows. We have a quiz show called Eggheads on every weekday evening. This will be a panel of people who are extremely clever in many subjects, and they ask questions. They are asked questions. There are others quiz shows that have celebrity guests in teams of 2. This is called Pointless, and it's hosted by a man. It's very light-hearted. Those are my favourites. I also love TV dramas. I can't think of a name of one at the moment, but generally they are full of intrigue, maybe murders or maybe just strange happenings, and they are serialised. So it would be on either 1 or 2 days a week, or once a week for several weeks. I think those are my favourite TV programmes. Another one of my favourite programmes are documentaries, especially by one of our really old now presenters called David Attenborough. He does wonderful pictures of all over the world, recently of Under the Sea. It highlighted also the big problem that we have, and as do you, of plastics. Because the big main animals in the sea, for instance the large turtles, eat them and swallow them. Whales have been known to have many tons of plastic in their stomachs, but the photography is just amazing. He also does wildlife, for instance in Africa, of all the lions and the lion packs, and cheetahs chasing their prey. Sometimes that's a little bit, you don't want these lions to catch the animals, but you know that's human nature. But the documentaries themselves are very educational and lovely to watch. So that's my favourite programmes.